All right, good evening, everybody. 8 o'clock on our Monday evening. 10 Tampa Bay Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins here. Going to spend the next 30 minutes almost talking about the tropics. We don't have a lot going on, but it definitely has woken up, and we have our fourth named storm of the season. Dexter's out there, although it's not going to affect anybody, so there's not a lot going on, but we definitely have some things we need to watch. So let's talk about it. Number one, where are we at? So August 4th. Really after August 1st is when the season really starts to wake up. If you look at this chart here, notice how there's really not much going on until you get basically until the end. I mean the end of July. You see that there's just not a lot of development typically early on. And then right after August 1st, boom, it jumps right up. September 10th is our statistical peak. And then overall, this is just for numbers, amount of storms and activity, right? That comes down as we work our way through, especially through October, right? Once you get into November, my thing is to get past Halloween, but you can still have some issues after that. Remember last year, it was like second and third week of October and fourth week when we had our issues. Somewhere in there, right? That 3-week period had 2 storms back to back, 2 weeks apart. That was in October. So we're getting towards the time of year where things should be waking up, and they're waking up just a little bit. Look at some of these numbers. First named storm, June 20th. Ours, I think, was the 24th, right? I think it was the 24th, something like that. So we were pretty close to that. First hurricane, August 11th. We have not had a hurricane yet. These are averages. So like on average, we have our first hurricane each season by August 11th, or on August 11th, right? We don't have our first major, which is a Cat 3, until September 1st, just on average, right? 30-year running average. So you can see we're still getting into the season, and just because it officially starts in June, which we have to watch obviously very closely, doesn't mean things are rolling right away. Now, let's take a look at some of the numbers. 30% chance of development here from the Hurricane Center in this yellow area right here. Okay, we'll talk about that. This is going to be, I think, similar to Chantal, maybe a little weaker, who knows, but the idea with Chantal was it sat around out here and then drifted, became Chantal, and went into Myrtle Beach, and then right up through North Carolina. Probably happening Friday night and Saturday in this area, okay? Here's Dexter. Bermuda is right there, all right? So Dexter's going north of Bermuda. There's Halifax, Nova Scotia to the north. Dexter's coming right out. There's the track from the Hurricane Center. It's going to play nice and stay out at sea and not really affect anybody. This wave that just came off of Africa has a 50% chance of developing later this week in this area here, but most of the modeling suggests that it recurves. Fantastic news. We would love to see that happen. So let's start first with Tropical Storm Dexter. We have 45-mile-per-hour winds here, 1,002 millibars. It's moving to the northeast at 15. That's probably going to speed up just a little bit. But the key is, you see that right here, that visible satellite. Watch this. You see all that low, the center sitting right in here. Look where all of the, if the center's here, all of the convection's out here. There's no convection out here looking similar. And that is because we have a ton of wind shear coming in out of the south and the west on this thing. And that is why it looks like it does. Okay, so there's a jet stream kind of dipping down like this, right? And it's just shearing a lot out of it, right? So not expected to do much. It's going to stay weak. 45-mile-per-hour winds, in fact, are the forecast. Here's the latest from the Hurricane Center as of 5 o'clock. We got the latest track as of 5 o'clock today. And you can see it's going to keep it 45-mile-per-hour winds basically all the way through the next few days. Now, keep in mind, it's also moving over cooler water eventually. So it's going to be turning what we call extratropical, which means, it might keep these winds like 50-mile-per-hour winds, 50-mile-per-hour winds. That's by Thursday afternoon into Friday, but that's much cooler water. It's not 80 degrees anymore, so it's going to turn cold core. It's going to be just basically like a low-pressure system moving across the North Atlantic. So that will come and go. Dexter, I definitely don't want to say it's a nothing burger, but it's a nothing burger. There are the forecast models taking it out to sea. Good riddance with Dexter. Now, let's talk a little bit more about this one here. So there's some convection here, but really it's going to be more stuff that develops in here over the next couple of days by Wednesday, Thursday time frame, and then drifts off towards the north and the west, okay? So let's use the European model. Let's go out to Wednesday evening. This is 10 p.m., and lo and behold, what is that? All right, very broad, weak area of low pressure, maybe by 10 p.m. Wednesday night. Okay, now by the time we get into Thursday, in fact, let me just back this up a little bit. This is Thursday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Now at that point, it is possible that we have a depression, a potential tropical cyclone because it's not organized enough, and you may have to issue some watches and warnings for the Carolina coast for Friday into Saturday. That's possible. We could have potentially a track on this by late Wednesday night into Thursday time frame if this forecast model holds, because that right there is a closed low. You can see the winds going all the way around it as well, right? And it would be going towards the coast potentially as a tropical storm. They'd have to issue tropical storm warnings. Watches go out 48 hours in advance, and that's less than 48 hours. Thursday, Friday, Saturday would already be there by Friday night. So that's the reason why they may end up having to do that. But that's if it forms, right? If anything looks like it's going to. This is Friday at noon, and clearly a much better shaped system here. Closed low, you've got the winds going all the way around it. Most of the rain will be up here in the Myrtle Beach again, right? And then up into eastern North Carolina again. Now the GFS I'm going to show you, they're down here, right? This one's going to go up here. So that's the difference. And these model runs will change. But this is just to give you an idea now. Saturday, 2 o'clock, their center went into Myrtle Beach somewhere near Wilmington, Wrightsville, and then look at all this rain, tornado threat up in here. Friday night into Saturday, it's Saturday, 2 o'clock. Heavy tropical rains coming through eastern North Carolina, just like Chantal. I mean, this is not that much different. And then it moves further up, and there you go, D.C. as we get into Sunday night. That's 7 a.m. Monday morning. So it's Sunday afternoon, Sunday night into D.C. And then you may have seen New York get all that flooding in the subway the other day. Possibility of seeing that again. They're going to get some heavy rainfall potentially out of this as we get into Tuesday of next week. But we'll see. That is a long way out. Now, this is the GFS version of the system, okay? Stop it here. See where it is? This is Saturday morning, sunrise, and it's taking it in near Savannah, Beaufort, South Carolina. But again, most of the heavy rain is north of the center, which is South Carolina and into North Carolina, and then pushes it up and kind of blends it in with the cold front that picks it up eventually. So the bottom line with the GFS, it is kind of all over the place. It doesn't see much. The European forecast model doesn't see much. So if you happen to be watching from Georgia or South Carolina or North Carolina, it's still not a big deal. The problem with this is Chantal wasn't a big deal until it had like 50-mile-per-hour winds plus. Okay, so that's something to watch. This is not a Cat 2, 3, 4 coming at you, all right? You're fine as far as that's concerned, but it's something you need to watch. Now, Jacksonville, we'll keep an eye on it as well, too, although I think the worst weather will be to the north and east of the center, and that's not Jacksonville. So similar for Chantal that Jacksonville had to deal with, right? All right, now let's go back out and take the bigger picture again. And now I want to take you out to the central and eastern Atlantic, this wave here. Actually, what it is it's, let me see what I can do here. It is this wave that's sitting out here that's just coming off. And there's not much left of it at this particular point, okay? So look at the European forecast model. You're going to watch this area right in here because it sees some weak low here. It's going to drift out, and it looks like it wants to come out a little bit to the north, but does it? Okay, that's Thursday, that's Friday. Now, this could be it in here because this is not seeing much, but the ensembles see something in here, and then another one coming in and going straighter across. And that's the problem with the European model, because here comes another one. That's by Saturday. It really didn't even show much going recurving. And then by the time you get out towards a week and a half, August 14th, which is crazy amount of time in tropical forecasting, but you can see it's got a wave that just comes straight across and head towards maybe Barbados by that time. So it's seen multiple waves. The first one trying to recurve, maybe that's part of it. The second one that comes off behind it, and then this is probably a third. The bottom line is the European model is seeing things opening up, okay? It also, and this is key, it has this ridge out here. Our high pressure is sitting out here, right? That opens, and I did this earlier. I'm just going to draw a door. There's the doorknob, right? That opens the door for things to come up and recurve. And we want that, right? We want that. We do not want that to be locked up. And in fact, let me clear this out of here. I'm going to take you back. Look where the ridge is now. The ridge comes all the way over almost to the Bahamas. That green you see there, storms will not go into that green very much. They will go around it. They will float around it like clockwise, like a clock. So that right there would suggest, hey, that's going to push it against Cuba and push it in the Gulf of Mexico, maybe in the Yucatan, right? Now look as we get into Thursday, this Thursday, look how it's breaking down. And see that area? All of this area right in here is kind of opening up. And the center of the ridge is getting further and further back out towards the east. So now as we go back out into next weekend, the middle of next week, so now we're talking a week and a half. Now look where that is, right? And so that totally opens up the door for things to recurve. This is just a pattern. Will this be here? Who knows? Will this be here? Who knows? That's a week and a half out. We don't know. It's even more than that. But what we do know is that a lot of the models are suggesting that this door gets opened here. And for me, that's good news because that takes a little bit less of the threat from Florida. It does add a little bit more of the southeast coast of the United States, North Carolina, even further to the north because it can get things further up there. But that's not driving something straight across and into Florida like you've seen people share on social media lately. Okay, so slightly better news as far as that's concerned. This is the GFS model. Same thing I was just showing you, but this is the GFS version. You can see where Dexter's moving out and up, and then here comes the second wave right here. I know it's tough to see. There's not really much there. All right, where does this go? Although it's got a weak low over Florida, the one that's going in the, this is Friday, Saturday. That's Sunday. Here it is. So it doesn't have anything coming up and out, right? It's got something further to the south. So yeah, the GFS is trying to bring something right up into here by the time we get towards a week and a half out. Okay, again, look what it's doing. It didn't drive it in here. It's turning it up because that door is open up. All right. Now, names on the list. The next names coming up are Aaron, Fernand, and Gabrielle. Aaron would be our one that would be watching off the southeast coast here for Thursday, Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday time frame, maybe, right? Fernand, we'll get to that when we get to that. Let's talk water temperature because the water is running a little bit above average everywhere, including the Gulf of Mexico. Most of it is about 1 to 2 degrees. Some areas are about 3 degrees above normal. Most of the Gulf, though, is about 1 to 2. So that's okay. I mean, we want it to be cooler than normal to take away some of the energy that the storms could potentially use to get stronger, but that's not going to happen. But it's not super warm at this point, and that's good news as far as the energy for storms goes. Now, this is not necessarily good news. This is the shear across the Caribbean, the Gulf, and the Atlantic. This has dropped all kinds of dropped. I mean, this Caribbean was just loaded up with shear all of June and most of July. You are not going to get anything to form in there, right? Now you can see this is pretty wide open. There's not a lot there. Look at this main development region sitting on here without a lot of shear as well. And then as we go into next weekend and beyond, a week and a half out right there, still quiet. No shear in here. Yeah, we got some out here. But still, some of that could be generated by the storm itself. Now, here's Saharan dust. And you can see some plumes coming out. This is this upcoming weekend. So whatever's out there is going to have to deal with at least a little bit of some of this dust. And the dust dries out the atmosphere, and it actually makes it harder for the storms to form. So this is a little bit more dust than we normally see this time of the year. That's a good thing to help us keep from seeing storms. It doesn't mean it's not going to prevent them altogether, but it could keep them at bay a little bit as far as intensity goes. We'll have to see. A lot of times when they get tangled up in that, it can dry it out for a while, but then eventually it kind of works its way out of that, and it can, if the storm's strong enough, it can keep going without it. So we would like to see a lot of that to quiet things down a little bit, but we've seen quite a bit of it so far this year. I don't want to be begging for too much, you know what I mean? We've seen quite a bit of it. All right, so what we've talked about, this map here, let me show you this. This is the National Hurricane Center forecasting out the next 7 days. All right, and that's the numbers, the percentages that you see there, and we show you that. Now, this here is the Climate Prediction Center, and they go out a week after. So they go out to August 6th, right? So this is actually the beginning of week 2, and this graphic gets updated on Tuesday. So this one was actually updated last week, almost a week. We'll get another one updated tomorrow, and it was saying, watch here off the southeast coast. And where are we watching? Right off the southeast coast. All right, so pretty good forecast there. They said it was greater than a 20% chance that cyclone development occurs. And then they said the week after that, so essentially that was week 2, this is week 3, that we need to be watching out there in the main development region. That's the central Atlantic. And yeah, that's where we're watching. So, I mean, we're looking at these long-range models, and you get a good idea. The Climate Prediction Center is doing the same thing, and you can see where we are at. So, that's it for tropics. Again, I think, I'm not too worried at all, obviously, about Dexter. And I had a lot of folks ask, like, cruises to Bahamas or to the Bermuda area, fine. This wind here is 45, maybe with some gusts in the 50s. There's some swell, but it's nothing terrible. And the weather's not going to be even bad in Bermuda. Bermuda is where the M basically is in Bermuda right there. So they're going to have some downpours coming through tonight and part of tomorrow. But then that's going to probably pull a little bit of drier air back in on the back side of the storm. So Bermuda's not going to have any issues. And of course, neither will Nova Scotia. Those areas up to the north are fine. They're way out of it. So if you're going to get a storm like that, that's what you're going to get. That's what you would like to get, right? I will point out here, I would watch this area in the Appalachians, western North Carolina as well. They could get 2 to 3 inches of rain between now and tomorrow evening, maybe early Thursday, but I think between now and tomorrow evening. And then we get tropical rain coming up the coastal plain of the Carolinas and up into Virginia. So I think we'll have to watch. If the GFS is right and this tropical system ends up further down here, you may get more rain into North Carolina mountains and South Carolina. Whew. On top of 3 inches that they may get, 2 to 3 inches that they're getting right now. So that would not be a good thing. If the European is right, it would come up more towards Myrtle Beach and you'd get more rain here on the coastal plain. I will say, when systems are more organized and they come in here, we start looking in this area right in here for the upper level winds. And I think we're going to end up in a situation where we get a little bit of a jet that goes like this. When that happens, they've done studies that you can actually get more rain in central and western North Carolina with a hurricane if you get this particular setup than you can even here on the coast. I mean, there'll be some spots along the immediate coast that get a lot of rain, but you get a lot of lift in the atmosphere right here and a ton of moisture that's just being thrown into it. So that's something that we're going to have to watch for the Carolinas if, and it's a big if, right? If anything tries to organize and come up into that area. But that's definitely something that I wanted to mention for folks there. I still have a lot of friends there in the Carolinas. All right, let's get closer to here. We're about 8:17 or so, so I want to show you some of the local radar that we have here because we've actually had some pretty good thunderstorms out there today. No severe weather going on right now, at least not in our neck of the woods, right? But you notice we've got some pretty good thunderstorms out in eastern Polk County and some pretty good rainmakers more than anything else. But southeast Polk County, this is all light to moderate rainfall. Most of your convective activity, most of the chance for thunderstorms is gone. But look what's happening up here near Polk City and Citrus Ridge. I mean, that is a good thunderstorm, and that's going to be producing quite a bit of hail. Look at this. Look at that. That is a ton of hail coming out of that. So that technically, if this were to verify, you'd end up with a severe thunderstorm warning for that area for the hail. So just a heads up to anybody that's in that Citrus Ridge area. This is drifting off towards the north. Looking at, I don't see, I'm kind of interested in if this is any kind of rotation. It looks like the storm might actually be falling apart a little bit there. Let me look at that real fast. Yeah, it looks like that's falling apart. So more of a hail maker than anything else. But man, that is a good looking storm right there. It's a small one too, north of I-4. We'll stay that way. Let's see if we got our Polk City, our Plant City camera out there at Plant City Furniture, because that's part of it right there. That's part of the storm that you're looking at there. I-4 looking pretty good right now, as far as traffic goes. That's good. But there we are. Did you see the lightning? See the lightning? Let me go jump back out there. And that's the lightning in that storm. I'll leave it here for a second, especially look over here, this side of the camera on the left side. You'll see it. But dry in Plant City, and there is a small rain chance. Some of these thunderstorms are going to try and build back towards the west, but only a few of them for this evening. I do not expect a lot, so I had to keep it in there just to have it in there for a chance of showers and storms, but there's not going to be a whole lot out there. So there you go right now. There's a look at the radar. Big time storms over on the East Coast. You can see there's I-95 here, so they're just west of there. But man, they could end up with some warnings over there. In fact, I wonder if they've got anything going on right now. It doesn't look like anything now, but they've got some bigger storms. Our neck of the woods, we had something here in eastern Pasco, or I should say, yeah, eastern Pasco earlier. Looked like we're trying to get a couple showers to pop up here in Carrollwood. Just a quick sprinkle if that's making it to the ground, but that will be the nature of it later tonight. We'll have a real small chance of some of what you see popping up right in here. See how these pop up right here? See that? That's probably going to work its way here, and then work its way here, and then work its way towards the coast. So from 8 o'clock to 10:30, 11 o'clock. That would be the timing. All right, so don't cancel plans if you're in Sarasota, Bradenton, Tampa, St. Pete. Just know that we're not quite done with the rain chance as we go through the evening hours. We did get quite a few of the clouds out there, that's for sure. In fact, let's go out to the beach right now and see what the sunset looks like. I can't control that thing right now. But basically, high clouds are coming in, so most areas ended up with seeing a little bit in the way of cloud cover, if not a lot, right? And those were basically from those storms. That's a pretty good looking sunset from there. Let's go up to Tampa. You can see some of the color getting lifted into it. But the beach is really going to be a good looking one, and I think we're a little late, because what you want is you want the high clouds up there, but you don't want them extending all the way out, blocking the sun. I mean, the high clouds are here, and the sun angle comes down and shines up underneath those. That's what gives you those really good colors. That's what gives you all the oranges that we love to see there. So let me see if I can turn this camera around just a little bit. But you can see downtown Tampa's looking pretty right there. Golden hour still, I guess. I don't know. I guess the sun's over the horizon now with those clouds. So let's come back out here to the beach. We'll move this around. Very tropical look here out at Clearwater. Look at that. Beautiful. I love this view out here, especially when you zoom in on it. It's nothing like just looking way out there in the Gulf. Very tropical scene. Yeah, you can see the sky's on fire out there. Pretty cool. Just a couple tropical showers out there. Those will stay offshore. Everything's kind of moving more south to north, but if anything, it's kind of drifting a little more northwest, and so we won't have to worry about any of that developing. Although overnight tonight, we'll see some showers develop just off the coast, and then they'll be near the coast by about 9 or 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. All right, back over toward the radar now. In fact, what I wanted to do was get you out to our forecast model. This is for this evening. We'll run it out to about 9:30, and you see how it's trying to bring some of that rain back. So it's got an eastern Polk County. It's a little overdone for my taste, but notice by 9:30 it does pick up eastern Hillsborough, eastern Pasco, perhaps eastern Hernando, and then see that small chance through 11 p.m. tonight in the Tampa area, through central Hillsborough, northern Pinellas, and central Pasco County. So yeah, there's a small rain chance this evening, not a big deal. Now this is tomorrow morning. Remember I said we'll be a few offshore, and you can see those there. Sunrise is going to be awesome if you've got these tropical showers like what we're seeing out there right now, right? It'll be the opposite. There'll be storms out there, but they'll be all lit up by that east sunshine or sunrise. So get your cameras ready for that. And then by 12 to 2 o'clock, this is 2 p.m., these develop, right? These will all develop along the coast. That will be the best chance for widespread showers and storms along and west of I-75. That's 12, 1, 2 o'clock tomorrow. Then they move inland. That's 4:30. Now we still have a chance for a few storms to pop up. Look at that. That's around 7:30. Look at the Tampa area, St. Pete. See that? Although most of the rain's over on the East Coast, still a small chance. It's kind of like what we're dealing with tonight. And then on Wednesday, same thing. Wake up, a few showers mid to late morning along the coast. That's around 1 o'clock. You can see that there. Now watch as it moves inland, fills in a little bit, and we'll have a small chance again back towards the coast. So overall, tomorrow, Tuesday, actually has a better rain chance than Wednesday. Wednesday, you can see that looked even just a little bit drier. But then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we'll kind of start getting back at the 40-50%. And then I think Friday through the weekend, we're about 50 to 60% chance for those afternoon showers and storms. So there's the forecast for the next 12 hours, and you can see the automated number saying 60% chance around 11 o'clock. That's a little high for me I'll have to edit that. But you also see 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. See that? 20% chance. Real small. That would be along the immediate coast. I don't think the morning commute will have much of an issue, but we will have a few showers there to watch. And then you can see by the time we get into tomorrow afternoon, it's about a 40 to 50% rain chance. Today was only about 30 to 40%, really closer to 30. So not a lot of rain around for tonight, but there will be a chance. Tomorrow, look at that 50% chance. See that? And you see how it looks a little less rainfall coverage on Wednesday. Thursday, kind of about the same. Friday coming back up. Saturday, Sunday. It's going to really depend on where you are, but I really think we're going to see some extra moisture thrown our way, and so we'll go with that 50 to 60% chance for rain. I don't see any weather impact alerts. I don't see any heat advisories, right? We'll stay in the low 90s all the way through. We will end up looking at temperatures basically slightly above average for this time of the year. Here's our 7-day forecast. 91 is now average for this time of the year, and that all the way through the middle of September, and then it drops to 90, September 16th or 17th, right, somewhere in there. So get used to that, but not like what we saw last week, right? The heat index values upwards of 108, 112, 115 at times. We're not seeing any of that. The dew points have come down just a little bit, and the air temps have actually come down. I mean, 94 is still hot, don't get me wrong. 93, 94 degrees, that's still warm, but the dew points have dropped just a little bit, and when we see some showers, that will help to cool the air just a little bit as it drags down some of that drier and cooler air, and that lowers the dew points just a touch in some locations. That keeps that heat index down. So that to me looks like more of a typical forecast for the next 7 days. The winds are trying to go southeast to push everything back towards the coast. But with the tropics trying to act up there east of Florida, it's kind of messing with it, and they're very slow-moving storms. So we'll watch for a little bit of heavy rainfall at times. But I think that's it. Okay, guys, thanks for joining us. We will see you at 11 o'clock on 10 Tampa Bay.